All right, I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education for Tuesday, October 28th, 2014. And we are going to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Cash.
Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Muy buenas noches y gusto de verlos aquí. Tenemos los aparatos para la interpretación de esta junta y parece que ya casi todos tienen, los que gustan usarlos ya los tienen, pero si no tienen, aquí tenemos disponibles. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And we do have headsets available for the hearing impaired as well at the side table if there's any member of the audience that needs that. That brings us to item C5. Dr. Cash, introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Tonight we'll recognize over 50 outstanding Dos Pueblos students for their service as interpreters. During back-to-school night, these students provided interpretation services for Spanish-speaking parents. Over a 3-week period, the students served the school communities of Adams, Roosevelt, Harding, Dos Pueblos, Goleta Valley, Santa Barbara Junior High School, La Cumbre Junior High School, and Washington. I'm going to ask Mr. Handel and Dr. Drade to do the honors. And Mr. Handel, will you announce the names of our students?
Will do. Thank you. Denelson Alvarez. Liliana Alvarez. Melissa Amaro. Jennifer Alfonso. Andrea Barriga. Jocelyn Beltran. Guadalupe Cardoso. Kimberly Castañeda. Juan Carlos Carrasco. Jocelyn Castillo. Willy Contreras. Juana Delgado. Juan Esparza. Jessica Flores. Luis Galindo. Amor Galván. Belinda García. Bianca González. Giovanni González. Juan González. Carla Gutierrez. Karina Gutierrez. Ramona Gutierrez. Julio Hernández. Karina Hernández. Yuriana Hernández. Zaria Hernández. Kayla Lázaro. Jennifer León. Daisy Llamas. Aranzazu Magallanes. Isabel Martínez. José Manso. José Mendoza. Natalie Morena. Aline Morón. Juan Muñoz. Adriana Paniagua. José Peralta. Ivy Pérez. Fabiola Solís. Patricia Ramírez.
Solís.
Edith Rivera. Maite Rivera. Yasaira Sánchez. Mónica Trejo. Ruby Trejo. Ramón González. Viviana González. Jacqueline Morán.
Juan González.
Pablo Saleta. Luis Pérez. Kayla Ortiz. And Fernando Reyes.
There's 2 left.
Reyes. Who do you have there?
Stephanie Esparza. Juan Esparza.
Okay.
What an incredible collection of public servants.
Thank you.
Incredible service to our community. And I know on behalf of the principals at all the schools that you served and that you continue to serve, they say thank you. And thank you very much for what you've done. And I know board members will have comments as well.
Yeah, wow. It's like a sea of chargers here. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing to make sure that our schools are open to all of our families, and that that our Spanish-speaking parents in particular feel completely included and can understand what's going on at our schools, particularly at our back-to-school nights. You're providing a tremendous service. My goal in the long run is for us to have the Danish model, where we're all fluent in English and Spanish, this case, instead of Danish. But until that day happens, we need every member of the community to step up when they can, and we so appreciate what you've done. And I know that you have no doubt particularly made Dr. Paz proud tonight, since he was once in your shoes as a former Charger. I don't know if you want to add anything.
You too can be a board member. So I'd like to see one of you in the future come up and be a board member, because I went to Dos Pueblos as well. And so, yes, you can do that. So, and thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and congratulations. Thank you. I have a couple other announcements.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And we'll pause for a moment, because obviously we know that students need to get back to their schoolwork, and there may be family members that need to take them home. So we'll pause for just a moment as they leave, as they need to.
Pretty cool what Bill Gorley made, huh? Yeah, he made one for me a while ago. No, he makes them. He's really talented, man. When did you get him? How did they get there? I haven't seen him out there. Oh, John. Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. I guess we will go ahead and continue with item C5. Dr. Cash?
Thank you very much, Madam President. As you know, 2 new communicable diseases have been covered extensively in the news: enterovirus D68 and Ebola. There have been 43 confirmed cases of enterovirus D68 in our state and 1 confirmed case in Santa Barbara County. And I want you and the community to know that we're working with the Santa Barbara County Health Department and received their input on a letter that we'll be sending out to families this week, and we'll continue to keep a close watch on this developing story. As board members are aware, last week we had 3 facility master planning committee meetings at San Marcos, Dos Pueblos, and Santa Barbara High School. The input that we received was valuable, and we look forward to having a pretty vibrant discussion regarding LPA's presentation of their draft facilities master plan for the school district. Our food services department is gearing up for the Franklin Supper Club, and I hope that you read about that in e-news. Delicious, homemade, wholesome dinners are now being provided. It began service on October 13th, and it serves up between 225 and 250 meals every Monday through Friday. The meals are free to children under the age of 18, and they're only $4 for adults. Great food by our food services. Tomorrow, October 29th, the public is invited to the board special education workshop at Santa Barbara High School's cafeteria, and we will also be having some light refreshments provided by our food services division. And this Thursday, beginning at 5 o'clock, we'll join Mayor Helene Schneider and the Santa Barbara Youth Council in a Stop Bullying Town Hall meeting at the San Marcos High School auditorium, where also a new film will be viewed. There'll be discussions, there'll be awards presented to students for outstanding poetry and art in relationship to anti-bullying. And as you can see by this Theater Fest flyer, of which there are also copies back there, and I know that you guys got copies as well, that we have a great lineup of fall performances, and as board members know, our students do a fantastic job in all of our junior highs and high schools, and putting themselves out and doing a wonderful performance. And finally, I want to remind everybody that our State of the Schools presentation will be a breakfast. It's scheduled for November 20th, and the location is the Hyatt on Cabrillo Boulevard, with more information to follow. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cash. We're now on item C7. This is board comments and correspondence. Anything to share? Mr. Herron?
Again, it was a great last 2 weeks. The town hall meetings were, the one I went to was fantastic. Great communication from everybody in attendance, and I think a lot was accomplished. But the thing I want to talk about is, you may recall a couple months ago, Community Academy was in front, the ELAC committee from Community Academy was in front of us, and one of their issues was the quality of food being served in their cafeteria. And tied to that was, we have been told we can't bring hamburgers to school, we can't bring burritos to school, we can't bring pizza to school, but yet in the cafeteria they get hamburgers, they get pizza, and they get burritos. Why the disconnect? And so I suggested that they have Nancy come to one of their ELAC meetings, and she did, to the last one. And what it turned out to be was purely communication, in my estimation. Now, I don't speak Spanish, so I didn't understand most of what was going on, but I could tell by the faces and the body language that there was a common communication going on among Nancy and the ELAC committee. And the main thing was the quality of the food. And I just passed out a document she went over with the parents, and basically the quality of her hamburgers are better than McDonald's, the quality of her pizzas are better than Rusty's, the quality of her burritos are better than what you can get in the public markets. And so she went over how the food is from local farms, how it's rich in grain and rice and rolls and cookies are baked fresh daily and from scratch, with the emphasis on clean ingredients wherever. And I think she did a fantastic job in Spanish. I didn't know Nancy spoke Spanish, but she communicated in Spanish with the parents. I just enjoyed it very much. I thought it was a great meeting. I hope the parents were happy with it. I've asked Mr. Guenya to let me know if that's the case, but I thought it was a well-done meeting with Nancy. And she's going to go out as a result and talk to more groups. I think it hit her head on that she needs to communicate these practices that she's undergoing. So it was a learning lesson for her also.
Great. Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. Now for announcement of closed session action. We did pull item B4 and did not discuss that in closed session and took no other action on item B2. That will be coming up on the action agenda. That brings us to C9, public comments on non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education.
We have one, Mr. Kenneth Locke. You will have 3 minutes. I warn you about your time when you have 30 seconds to go.
Okay. My name is Kenneth Locke. I spoke before the City Council today. I haven't been in town too much this summer. I've been back for the past couple of weeks. I mentioned to them the whole concept of being intelligent, becoming and being intelligent, and I was focusing on pretty much PE, physical education, and I'm working on explaining how through the athletic exercise of tennis we can actually now become intelligent. And it turns out that I'm sorry to say that most likely your PE program does not really provide the children with the means for becoming intelligent. Primarily this is based on the fact that it's just sports, it's all competition. I've recognized tennis as being non-competitive and similar to like yoga, and the idea that the knowledge that I have, intelligent knowledge in relation to an intelligent relationship is understood in relation to the mind-body integration. And it's just kind of like providing PE with kind of like a freezing point, boiling point. It's a standard. When it comes to the mind-body integration, it's actually based on having complete and integrated knowledge in relation to the complete and integrated exercise. There's your connect. And I was able to discover how the one arm, how everything's integrated, and then I was able to entertain the idea and develop my other arm. And I'm actually kind of the poster boy for this whole thing where I can actually hit 2 forehands, 2 backhands, 2 serves. And the idea is that the meaning for the mind-body exercise of tennis is to develop a holistic oneness with your whole body. And so it brings I call my work, I call it Tennisance, the Renaissance of tennis, or the Tennisance method. Now, it's similar to Pilates, again, yoga, Tai Chi, and actually through the means of PE or through the means of tennis now, we can actually, again, become intelligent, learn intelligent knowledge in relation to, again, the mind-body integration. And then also when we understand tennis as being ambidextrous, we can actually understand it in relation to holistic health, pretty much health, mental health, where we become mentally healthy, intelligent, as well as physically healthy. Historically, there's been a gap. 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
There's been a gap between there, and that's what who I represent as the first teacher, say healer, who I was able to bridge that gap. All I'm doing is just sharing this information. I'm, local. I've been here for the past dozen years or so, and just felt I'd take the time to come in and share this. I'm hoping to do some videos and have it up on YouTube and share it with the YouTube channel. So I thought I'd share that with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
you.
Locke. Okay, we're now on the consent agenda. Any items that board members need to pull? No? Can I have a motion then?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will second that.
Moved by Dr. Paz and seconded by Ms. Limon. All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. We do not have any public hearings, which brings us to our action agenda item F1. This is the approval of the application for fundraising activity and approval of naming opportunities for the Peabody Stadium Complex project at Santa Barbara High School. Dr. Cash.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, this will be the first time that I'm going to introduce a fundraising item, and I'm doing so this evening because of the importance of the project, and I believe the importance of the district's partnership with Santa Barbara High School and the Santa Barbara High School Foundation. This is a once-in-a-lifetime, once every 100 years project that we have an opportunity in this community to participate in. And the fundraising plan that's before you from the Santa Barbara High School Foundation is one that I support. I believe you're going to hear some maybe slight modifications to it this evening. But I wanted to give the board members a few additional facts to be considering while you're listening to the fundraising plan. Recall that it's a $12.7 million budget, is the estimated budget right now. And of that, the Santa Barbara High School Foundation will be raising $5 million. So the balance of that will be brought to the budget through the secondary bond measure, as well as the California Department of Education's seismic mitigation grant that the district will receive. The current timeline for the construction has the construction starting in November 2015 and completing in a very optimistic way in January of 2017. I wanted to let board members know that that timeline has the following impact in relationship to the fundraising proposal. That Santa Barbara High School Foundation will have paid to the district $1.9 million of the $5 million prior to construction starting. They will have paid $2.85 million of the $5 million prior to occupancy. I also want to let the board know that right now, the Santa Barbara secondary bond has a $3.2 million project savings that the district has secured from projects that have come in under budget. And that amount is currently set to come before you sometime in January. An additional fact for you to have through your deliberation this evening is that the two big secondary projects that are left to be done, other than the Peabody renovation, are the roofing projects at La Colina and Goleta Valley Junior High School, which total approximately $6.1 million more in which to complete those two projects. Additional information I'd like to share with you, and that is the Santa Barbara Unified School District has loaned money from bonds for facility projects in the past. The most recent one was that Santa Barbara, at that time it was the elementary district, loaned Peabody Charter School $2.7 million to be paid out over 5 years for completion of their science library building. I also want to remind you that, and this is also information that you would be getting in January when we had this discussion, that in addition to the $3.2 million that we've saved, we still have an additional $1.9 million that is additional revenue that has not been allocated. That comes about as a result of interest and just things that you didn't allocate money to the penny when you did the original allocations. Also, you should be aware that if a decision was made to extend the timeline for construction on the project, the longest it possibly could be extended to for starting would be probably January, February 2017 to start the project. And then it wouldn't end for another 12 to 14 months. Now, the issue with that kind of delay is twofold. One, I believe you'll hear from the foundation, though I won't speak for them. There may be difficulty in obtaining the funds with that significant of a delay. And it's estimated, based on our best estimates right now, that there would be a compounded escalation of about 8% over that time frame, which would be in excess of $1 million, taking the budget to about $13.7 million. So I have this item before you because I'm recommending that the board approve the fundraising plan, because I think it is a once-in-a-100-year project. And I think we do have the funds that I would recommend we hold in a contingency savings account, the $3.2 million, not allocate those funds, and maybe allocate those funds as the Santa Barbara High School Foundation makes good on its pledges to the district. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John Vecchio and the Santa Barbara High School Foundation team.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Board members, thank you for having us here this evening. And I want to start by recognizing that we really wouldn't be at this point in this project if it wasn't for your leadership, the leadership of the superintendents and the staff at the district. So on behalf of Santa Barbara High and the Foundation for Santa Barbara High, we want to thank you for getting us to this point. About 5 years ago, we started conversations up again about the idea of renovating. At that time it was the track, and really what we had our sights set on was renovation of the track, which if you've been there you see that it's really not usable, and it is not used except for a surface that you can walk on. We also were interested in the field and making an artificial turf field so that the stadium could be used more often by students and by our community. At that time, we discussed the importance of having a CIF regulation track so that our track team could actually participate in track events and actually hold CIF track meets at our site. They currently do that off-site at Santa Barbara City College. So that was kind of the beginning conversation for the foundation and Santa Barbara High School. What we found is that Peabody Stadium is a very complex site, and we went over and over with the different options in terms of how to get a CIF regulation track there. We started looking at the fact that you can't really do anything unless you do something with the concrete bleachers and move them, actually. When we started looking at that, then we found that the stadium bleachers were in pretty bad disrepair, and that they were in need of renovation themselves. And so that's where we actually came up with a plan that works in that site for a CIF track and also a renovation of the grandstands. So where we're at today is, as Dr. Cash mentioned, we have a solid plan. It does have a budget attached to it. I know that the board has supported the investigation of the project, and we thank you for that. And what I'd like to do is introduce to you two people that are here with me tonight. One is Greg Tebby, who's a parent and a graduate and a tennis coach at Santa Barbara High School, who has provided unbelievable leadership for the last 5 years on this project, and he is also a driving force behind why we're here today. So I want to recognize Greg Tebby, and also Katie Jacobs, who is our development director also for the foundation and also a parent at Santa Barbara High, and who will be leading the fundraising effort. So I'm going to have her present to you some of the details of the plan that's before you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I just want to reiterate how grateful we are to you for your leadership in this project. John did mention that originally our interest was really in the track and having our students have a place to exercise safely and have meets, and really in looking into there, we could not have a track without addressing all the needs in the area, so it became a much larger project. And really, without your leadership, without the district stepping in to assist with this, we would not have a project. So I'm very grateful to you. I'm very happy, and I think the foundation is as well, to be able to provide additional funds to the schools so that we can all have the schools that we want and our kids need. So thank you, first of all. I want to save a lot of time for questions, so I'm just going to hit some highlights of the plan that we have in front of you. the first thing I want you to draw your attention to is sort of our organizational chart. All of you have heard this, I'm sure, that people give to people. And so where we have started with our campaign is our org chart. And these are various committees that we have been developing in the last several months. We've been focusing on the campaign cabinet. This is our group of ambassadors in the community. You will surely recognize many of those members who, many of them are alumni or have had students at the high school. And these are the people who are going to be going out into the community, bringing more people in on behalf of Santa Barbara High. We had our first meeting today down on the field to really start launching this fundraising campaign. Our blue committees here are our behind-the-scenes committees that work on materials, and the project is really your staff from the schools, KBZ, Kelly, et cetera. A cultivation committee here is our group that supports all of our green committees, which are truly our fundraising committees. Leadership, pace setter, major gifts, et cetera. So these are the people that we are involved right now, and in the next several months we will have more people coming in and being involved with it, but we start with a cabinet. So that was the first thing. To be able to launch a $5 million campaign, we've done some studies on what the number of gifts at various levels we will need. And I don't have this in your packet, I should have included it, but I wanted to mention that we have also a gift chart that shows us to be able to raise $5 million, we believe that we need about 14 gifts that are at $100,000 or more. We won't start advertising widely in the community about this project until we have at least 50% of our goal made, and that getting towards that goal really will necessitate us getting a large number of our 14 gifts in. I did want to tell you that though we have been fundraising, it has been very informal for the last 2 months. Of those 14, we already have 4 gifts pledged that are $100,000 or more, and that total right now is about $1.3 million. So that was something I wanted to share with you. Another key component of raising $5 million is giving our community time to be able to pay the pledges that they make when we are out there in the community asking for these donations. They're fairly high level, and we feel it's very important to be able to give our donors time to pay back those pledges. When we go out and ask someone for a large donation, it is much easier for them to be able to pay a pledge over time. Now, having said that, that is all part of our plan, but at this point, really, of our 1.2 or 3 million, only about 20% of those gifts are people that want to pay over 4 years. So it may be that as we go through time, we won't have as much in pledges secured as we thought we would. So that could likely change, and we are very happy to keep in communication with you about where we are over time with these pledges. I did also want to mention that in the naming opportunities right here, first and foremost, Peabody Stadium will always be Peabody Stadium. It's something that we hear from our alumni very strongly, that the Peabody Stadium was named after Frederick Forrest Peabody, who gave $100,000 back in 1924 to build the stadium. And so it will forever bear his name, and our alumni are very happy that that is happening. So, but there are some other opportunities that we want to make available to the community. I don't know that all of them will be taken, but our strategy is that for each gift that we think we need of like $1 million, we have to have 2 or so naming opportunities. So if we have 4, if we need 4 gifts of $250,000, we need to have several different opportunities at that level. So we've kind of crafted the naming opportunities after how many gifts we think we need. It doesn't mean that all of these things will be named, and likely they won't all be named, but several of them would. So these are the levels, and we'd like to have a discussion with you about those as well. Those are kind of the basics. I'd like to be able to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you so much. Board members. Mr. Herron.
Do you have the revised language document to show on the screen?
I have it. I don't think we can show it on the screen.
Thank you.
Would you like me to read it?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just the plans for disbursement section, correct?
All right, so the plans for disbursement now reads, in the event that the fundraising goal, well, it's the plan for disbursement of funds if the goal is unmet. It's a question that we have to answer because, honestly, we have every intention of raising the entire $5 million. So just put that out there. But in the event that the fundraising goal of the Foundation for Santa Barbara High School is not met, all funds raised, minus the Foundation's fundraising costs, will be dedicated toward improvements of Peabody Stadium and the adjacent track and field.
Now, that's the new language,
Yeah.
which I appreciate you're changing it. And in looking at it, I just wondered, let me just talk off the top of my head on this.
Sure.
It's sort of a negative statement.
Well,
Could we-
I wouldn't have asked the question that way, but
No,
you guys asked the question.
Could we have just said, should we just say, plans for disbursement of funds, strike out goal unmet, strike out the first part of the sentence and just say, all funds raised, minus the Foundation's 5%, will be dedicated toward improvements of Peabody Stadium and the adjacent track and field. Why bring up the issue of goal unmet?
And I will chime in on that, and that's because that is our the format that we ask them to do it in. And so all of our MOUs that come forward have that because that's what we have in our AR. That the fundraising entity must say what's going to happen if the goal is unmet.
Okay, I accept that. Let me go on? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just, Dr. Cash, number one, I would hope that your comments could be put down in writing and attached to the agenda, because they form a very basic underlying part of this discussion, because not having known those, and I'd like it attached to the agenda for future reference.
Will do.
And I'll just ask a question so I can get verification. In our BP 7215, it says the board also recognizes its responsibility to ensure that other projects are not negatively impacted if fundraising efforts do not meet the goal. Will there be any projects impacted if they don't meet their goal?
Well, if the board decides to utilize the $5.1 million of unallocated revenue and they raise not a single penny, and the board determines to allocate that to this project, then no identified projects will be negatively impacted.
Except the roofs on La Colina and several.
No, those will be done. No.
Okay.
I think that I'll just ask you to really spell that out here, that the roughly $6 million that's needed for Goleta Valley and La Colina for their roofs, that's already set aside.
Correct.
And it's not anything to do with this essentially, it's savings and surplus that we have not allocated yet. That are sitting there that we could decide to hold in reserve for this project, for example.
Correct.
But is part of your recommendation to stop those two projects until we make the decision about the stadium, if we have to make it down the road?
No, I just laid out the facts. My recommendation would be that the board set aside a contingency savings account, and then as the Santa Barbara High School Foundation makes good on its pledge amounts, which they have identified as at specific increments, then those funds are released from the savings account, brought forward to the board for decisions made on additional facilities projects.
And part of that, those funds are bond monies, not yet, or savings on bond. So part of it is bond money.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, 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 yes.
Now, obviously, this request is not in accordance with our AR, because there's very specific language about a one-year commitment with a one-year extension, very definite language about we need 75%. But your basis is that the money that we're setting aside fulfills those obligations.
Well, yes, and I mean, I looked at it as the same way as the board. Instead of the board requiring, it's kind of the board's own insurance policy in essence, so that, and then I believe that those facility projects will still be completed, but the board hasn't identified what they are, and my recommendation is that once, as I stated, once the funding comes from the Santa Barbara High School Foundation, for example, under their current plan, $1.9 million would come to the district a year from now approximately. Well, next week, a year from now, November 2015. At that particular point, or somewhere in that proximity, recommendations would come forward to the board in relationship to what projects could be completed that are currently on the bond list that have not been identified for completion or approved yet for that amount, and do the same, or the board could decide we're going to wait until there's $2.8 million because we have a project we want to do that's $2.8 million, or those sorts of decisions would be made as the money comes into the district.
And some of the money may not come in until 2020 if somebody in 2016 makes a 4-year pledge?
All pledges are due July or June of 2018. So 14-15 is year one of pledges.
But in your documentation, under gift payment information, you say payments be made over a period of 4 years.
Right. So that we're not going to allow someone to start a 4-year pledge down the line in 2016 or 2017. Our fundraising plan also says that 60% of our pledges will be in by summer of 2015. So our heavy fundraising is actually now until spring, and we will have a good idea by the spring where we are with that goal. So we're not allowing people to make their larger pledges down the line. We're doing all the fundraising up front. So 60% of our fundraising is this next year, and then the year after that we'll finish up with smaller donors. But our big donors, which is the bulk of this project, is happening right now.
Okay, and so the fundraising timeline takes precedent over the rest of the document.
Yeah, if you look at the fundraising timeline, our work is now.
Yeah.
So we're doing the fundraising and getting out there in the community right now. We're allowing people to pay those pledges that they're making now over time.
Okay, thank you.
Because they'll be able to make larger pledges that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Paz?
Two questions. One is, there's always a question for me in the back of my mind in terms of how this cash flow is going to work in terms of meeting both the needs of the stadium as it's being rebuilt. So that's one question, and you started to answer that, Dr. Cash. So that would be helpful in terms of knowing that. Probably would have been helpful even tonight, but it's hard to anticipate the future. I understand that part. But at least moving forward, that would be a really good thing to have. The second thing is controlling for cost overruns, because we have a total budget. But that's, and I know there's a contingency in it, but let's just say, for devil's advocate's sake, that we go way over that for whatever reason. Start digging, find out the stadium has a lot more issues than we ever anticipated. What then? So I think those are the questions that I would love to have a little more solid information about.
Ms. Simon?
Thank you, Dr. Cash, for your comments. Dr. Cash and I had actually gone back and forth, and I also had the opportunity to talk to Katie just more about this project. And initially, one of my concerns was, do we have a precedent for this? Have we done it with any other school site? And it sounds like this wouldn't be the first time we would do this. We recently did it with Peabody Library, Science Building.
Yes.
And I think that was something that I thought of. What I'm hearing is that this will not delay or negatively impact other construction needs, and that is important to me.
Well, I want to clarify that, because it won't delay or negatively affect any of the projects the board has approved.
So I should say that, yes.
Because we still have lots of
because our
construction
needs are so
needs,
much greater than this bond. So yes, so any of those that we have approved. I am okay with the pledges being staggered. I think that, and I don't know if it was mentioned here tonight, but I think in my conversation, it's also a pretty high level of pledges that are staggered.
This offer of 4-year pledges is really only going to be available to our higher level donors. And nationally, according to our fundraising consultant, when there are pledges, there's about a 2.5% default rate on pledges. And they tend to be the smaller donors and not the larger donors. In our own experience with our gym fundraising, where we did take pledges, we only had, of our hundreds of donors, we only had 2 that didn't pay their full pledges, and it was only about 1% of the budget. So I think because this is a smaller community and everyone sort of knows what everybody is doing, the pressure to perform is pretty high.
I also want to recognize that this stadium, I think I heard Dr. Paz say, is in so much need of other things. I mean, and the problems with it, I mean, it hasn't been renovated in
90 years.
Well,
90 years.
90 years.
Yeah.
I was going to say 100. 90 years. And the fact that it is an everyday classroom that our students use is very important to me. And the other piece that I've heard that is also important to me, that this would move us one step forward for making this also align with our strategic plan and the vision of this being a community space that can be used. And so I think I am generally in support of this, but I appreciate all the information that has been gathered, because I think we all started with similar concerns, it sounds like.
Ms. Edelson, and then Dr. Paz.
This is all very exciting to see coming together. One question that I know students will be asking is what happens during the time that the stadium is being renovated and rebuilt. And I don't, that's...
I'm going to let Mr. Becchio take that one.
So we have, in our optimistic view of the construction, it would be roughly a year. And so what we would be looking at is being displaced for a football season, a soccer season, and a lacrosse. And track is not displaced because they're already using a different facility. So those 3 sports would be displaced for 1 season, and that's our optimistic timeline. We would also miss a graduation, which I think is something that we're in discussions about. What do we do with graduation? And you know, one idea that we're currently throwing around is the idea of still doing the Walk of the Dons, and then taking a ride out to Anapamu and walking to the courthouse. So we would conduct our ceremony at the courthouse. We have not made any calls or made any reservations at this time, but that's just ideas that are swirling around. The graduation is of a high-level concern to our alumni, as you can imagine. So we will be, we'll be, and our students, we'll be formulating.
And parents. I'll be one of them. Yeah.
But we would be formulating a plan for facility use and reaching out to some of our neighboring schools to find out if they can accommodate us for that year in those different sports. And we have not done that yet.
Okay. Good answer. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Edelson? Dr. Paz.
You know, I think I'm generally supportive of this plan in lots of different ways. I think, you know, it does fit into what we want to do long term. I just have those concerns about communication and clarity as we move forward, so that alleviates both my concerns and, you know, people in the public would have similar concerns, I'm sure, of doing that. And so those would be things that I would want to have as we move forward.
I actually did a cash flow analysis, but I thought that was like too geeky to say out loud tonight. But I have it in writing, and I will include it because I think that's probably appropriate, and I will send it to the board tomorrow morning.
Great, and as long as that's part of the attachment as well. I would just add that you know, the issue with the Peabody staggered payments was that it actually did impact named specific projects that were supposed to happen in the elementary district at that time, but then were delayed. So what really appreciate hearing is that the money's already set aside for what we have said we're going to do, and then obviously we have lots of needs, but that we can hold money in contingency if we need to, and as we need to, and then free it up for projects, because, you know, it just creates deep resentment in the community when, you know, one school thinks something's going to come forward and it's canceled because, or delayed because something, because of a facilities needed another campus. And Dr. Paz, and you were talking about, you know, what do you do when you find out that it's going to cost dramatically more, for example, than you think. And I was reminded of the Santa Barbara High cafeteria, where they, you know, opened the walls and shut the walls and closed the doors and walked away, and that was, you know, years before that cafeteria was open again. Any other comments? Mr. Herron?
Yeah. Obviously, I love Peabody Stadium, and I'm very, very happy with the plans that could be reproduced almost as is. I think that's history. So I'm very pleased that we're going and sticking with the concrete. I'm very happy that I now have heard answers to some of my objections as to what would be impacted if we have to delay. But I guess my question is, the money you're talking about, I mean, we currently have a special rainy day fund of some $4 million. Will this be another fund like that? Because it won't be intertwined with that $4 million. Well, it'll be a
No.
It'll be a separate
accounting, absolutely.
So it'll show up as a separate accounting.
Yes.
And obviously, this board can choose to spend it, but I hope we don't. I mean, I hope it's there. So I think most of my questions have been answered, and I'll be looking forward to seeing the documentation for sure, but I'm obviously supporting of the effort.
I just want to also say thank you for taking the lead in the effort to do this. And it's a lot of work, I know. Speaking from my own experience, this is raising money for a campaign. That's not even a small smidgen of what you're doing. It's a lot of work, so thank you ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think that this will end up being the largest facilities fundraising project that we'll have done. So I applaud you, and I'm going to vet your success well ahead of time, but I have faith.
I actually love my job because, I mean, how many jobs do you have where people give you money for things they love? It's actually a wonderful experience, and I'm very lucky, so thank you for the opportunity.
Great. With that, I do need a motion on this application. And keep in mind, we haven't talked about the naming opportunities. There is a tag-along naming opportunities list. I haven't heard any objections about that. It does fall in line with our board regulations, so.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to approve the application for fundraising activity and approval of naming opportunities for the Peabody Stadium Complex project at Santa Barbara High School.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
And we'll see you at the ribbon cutting in 2017.
Hopefully we'll see you before, because we would love to have a tour and show you everything down there. So please contact me if you'd like to do that.
Thank you. This brings us to item B, sorry, where are we?
F2.
F2. That's the Citizen Oversight Committee appointment. Dr. Cash?
Thank you very much, Madam President. One of the great things that happens in Santa Barbara are that we have citizens that help provide oversight to the board on expenditures in relationship to our parcel taxes and the current bond measures. And Barbara Kiani is here to make a recommendation.
Board, I believe you have the application that we received from Lang, I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing this correctly, Sly, who would like to serve on the committee, has in fact indicated he was willing to serve on all 4 of the committees. So just wanted you to be aware that we have been looking for candidates. We have 10 openings. One of them was a tax preparer who, when she left, we ended up with 3 vacancies, so that kind of complicated things. But we're putting the word out, continue to search, and so hopefully I'll come back to you with more names.
Thank you. Mr. Aaron?
I noticed that City College actually puts ads in the different papers. Do we do that?
I've done it in the past. I have not yet done it for this one, but I certainly can.
I just wonder if it's successful or not.
I didn't get any response last time.
Okay. I didn't know if they do it because they legally have to, or
I don't know that, I don't believe you legally have to post
Okay,
there.
thank you.
Any questions on this, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to appoint the name that was forwarded to serve on the Citizens Oversight Committee, Mr. Lang Sleeg.
Is it Sleeg or Sly?
I don't know the correct pronunciation, but I
Okay.
will check on that, and we'll do it
Good.
phonetically or something for you.
Does that include that he may serve on more than one if he wants to? Your motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passed unanimously. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank him.
All right, we'll do
And
that.
we'll figure
Thank
out
you.
how to pronounce his name.
I will do that.
That's a good start.
All right, that brings us to F3, Board Action on Student Discipline Case 2014-15-04.
I'll move that we have a stipulation for a suspended expulsion for one school year, which ends June 2015, in case number 2014-15-04.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Herron, seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. And that brings us to item F4, Board Action on the challenge content of pupils' records in item number COR 2014-15-01.
And I'll move to deny the challenge of the content of pupil records in case COR 20415-01.
2014-15-01. Okay.
And is that a second as well, Ms.
Second.
Herron? All right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. That brings us to item F5, approval to enter into agreement with Legalshield for prepaid legal services for district employees.
Madam President, we have Dr. Christensen here, who's going to present this item.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Cash. As background, Legalshield is a provider of group prepaid legal service and identity protection plans. Many school districts offer group prepaid legal services to their employees, and we would like to make these services also available to our employees on a voluntary basis. Consequently, it is our recommendation that the board authorizes staff to enter into an agreement with Legalshield to provide group prepaid legal services to our employees.
All right. Any questions on this one? No? Can I have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to enter into agreement with Legalshield for prepaid legal services for the district employees.
Second.
All right. I think I may hold this motion for just a moment, and let's go ahead and take like a 5-minute break.
Good.